The film begins with an electronics engineer named Joaquin, a wheelchair-bound man who lives alone with his dog, Casimiro. He spends most of his time in the basement, while Casimiro is sick and always sleeping in the same spot. After waiting for the test results, the doctor tells him that the dog is suffering from an incurable mental illness. Joaquin is pained by his dog's suffering and decides to euthanize him by poisoning Casimiro's biscuits, but at the last moment, he changes his mind and removes the food. Later, Virta arrives with her daughter Betty to see a room for rent that Joaquin had advertised. She likes the room and moves her things in. From the first day, she tries to talk to him, but he responds with short, cold replies, so she realizes he's not sociable. The next day, Virta searches for Betty, who has a habit of hiding. While looking, she spots an old wrecked car and imagines it might be the reason for Joaquin's disability. She finds her daughter hiding in the kitchen cupboard. When she returns to the room, she sees pictures of Joaquin with his wife, daughter, and dog, and she realizes that he has lost them. Virta decides to surprise Joaquin and invites him to a rooftop dinner. She asks him why he's always silent and withdrawn, and he replies that he's grown used to living alone and finds comfort in solitude. He explains that he tried talking to Betty, but she didn't respond. Virta then tells him that her daughter hasn't spoken in 2 years due to psychological trauma. Over time, Joaquin notices that Betty is growing closer to Casimiro. One day, her mother sees her trying to hug the dog and pulls her away, but then, unexpectedly, Casimiro gets up and walks for the first time. The dog approaches Betty, and as soon as her mother lets go, the girl runs to him and hugs him, while the dog wags his tail happily. The moment deeply moves Joaquin. He goes back down to the basement, overjoyed by the dog's improvement, but then he remembers his late wife and daughter and breaks down in tears. Suddenly, Joaquin hears strange noises coming from behind the wall. He moves closer, presses his ear against it to listen more clearly, and overhears a group of men talking. One of them says they should keep their voices down so the disabled guy doesn't hear them, and Joaquin realizes they're talking about him. Virta calls him for dinner, but before leaving, he sticks a microphone to the wall and connects it to his computer to record everything. After dinner, he listens to the recording and discovers that they're a gang, led by a man named Gadelito, and their plan is set to be executed in 2 weeks, on the day of the town festival. He also learns that they've been monitoring his movements and use the sound of the elevator as a signal to start their operation when he leaves. To confirm his suspicions, he plants a tiny camera in the wall and sees the men digging a tunnel. Now he's certain they're preparing for a major crime. After confirming the gang's dangerous plot, Joaquin tries to get Virta and Betty to leave the house, telling her he needs the place for 2 weeks. But she refuses, citing the rental agreement and the lack of another place to stay. Feeling sorry for her, he tells her to come down to the basement the next day so he can show her something. When he checks the camera footage, he's shocked to see Virta meeting with Gadelito, and realizes she's his lover and has been feeding him information. He understands now that she's part of the plan. Suddenly, she calls out to him, so he quickly changes his story and tells her they'll stay upstairs instead. That night, he spies on the gang and learns they plan to rob the bank next to his house using explosives to blow open the vault floor. They've even prepared a small cart to transport the stolen money through the tunnel, right under his basement. The next day, Joaquin notices Betty talking to the dog and is surprised, so he plants a microphone in Casimiro's collar to hear what she's saying. Later, he checks the camera feed and sees Gadelito brutally torturing one of his men, Peche, because he sent his girlfriend a message revealing the bank's address. Even though Peche swears he was just trying to reassure her, Gadelito doesn't believe him and kills him in a horrific way. He then orders his right-hand man, Zorto, to dispose of the body and keep sending messages from Peche's phone to his girlfriend so she doesn't suspect anything. Joaquin is horrified. Now he's certain Gadelito is an extremely dangerous criminal. At night, Joaquin sits with Virta and keeps her drinking until she gets dizzy. He then takes her to the room and gives her a sedative injection, tying her to the bed. After that, he tells her he knows everything about the plan. After leaving Virta, Joaquin returns to the basement and sees Gadelito talking to one of his men named Pedro. He learns that the police chief, Joe, is actually the mastermind behind the heist, providing them with inside information. They also receive specific safe deposit box numbers they must avoid. These belong to a powerful drug lord and are rigged with a direct alarm to his home. If they touch them, they'll bring serious trouble on themselves. Joaquin records and documents everything in detail, gathering irrefutable evidence against them. The next day, Joaquin prepares breakfast for Virta and asks how she got involved with a criminal like Gadelito. She says she met him 2 years ago and that he treated her and her daughter well. She thought he was kind and harmless. So he shows her the video of him killing Peche, and she's shocked and breaks down crying. After Joaquin digs through the basement to reach the tunnel, he discovers the gang messed up their digging and hit a main water pipe right in the middle of the tunnel, so they decide to change the route. Joaquin goes down to check the problem, and when he's coming back, he finds one of the gang members coming down the tunnel, so he hides and covers his face with mud. When he gets back home, he finds Betty missing and searches everywhere for her until he spots her on camera going down into the tunnel. Later, the corrupt police chief Joe comes with the gang to review the robbery details. They figure out that blowing up the bank vault floor will happen at the same time as the fireworks, so nobody suspects the sound. Zorto loses his watch and gets scared of Yardelito, but Yardelito trusts him. After they leave, Betty returns to the tunnel. Joaquin sees her, pulls her out of the tunnel and hugs her, but then finds Zorto's watch with her, so he takes it from her. After Joaquin tells Virta that her daughter has started speaking, they watch the recording where Betty tells Casimiro about Yarlito, how he had been molesting her and threatening to kill her if she spoke. Virta completely breaks down and wants revenge, but Joaquin calms her and promises retribution. While they're talking, Jarelito calls Virta. Joaquin instructs her to answer and reassure him that everything's fine so he doesn't get suspicious. 2 days later, when it's time to execute the plan, Joaquin goes down the tunnel before the gang. He removes the bomb from its original location and places it under the water pipe so it will explode and flood the tunnel. Then, he breaks through the bank vault floor and steals the money. On his way back, he encounters the gang members descending into the tunnel for final checks before detonation. The bomb explodes, filling the tunnel with dust. Seizing the opportunity, Joaquin quickly re-enters the tunnel, returns to the basement, and seals the hatch. Seconds later, the gang members go down the tunnel and begin robbing the vault, loading the money onto their car. And suddenly, the gang hears the sound of heavy water in the tunnel. So one of them goes down to see what's happening, and is shocked to find the pipe has exploded and the water has flooded the tunnel, and she can't move. She calls for someone to save her, but the rest of the gang inside the vault are trapped and can't get out. At that moment, Jarelito takes Zorto and Pedro and escapes before the tunnel collapses, leaving the others to drown. The water also starts reaching Joaquin's basement, so he quickly takes the bag of money and goes to hide it in the closet, but is surprised to find Virta has woken up and is hitting him and trying to tie him up. But he overpowers her and gives her a sedative shot and forgets to tie her up because he was in a hurry to go wash and hide the dirt traces. Then, Joaquin goes out to the street and finds the police surrounding the area. He asks them what's happening, telling them water flooded his basement and he doesn't understand why. At the same time, Joe calls Jarelito asking about the pipe explosion. But Jarelito says a water pipe burst and he doesn't know the reason. Afterwards, Joe takes his men and searches Joaquin's house after discovering there's a tunnel under the basement connecting to the bank. During the search, Joe looks at Joaquin with suspicion. At that moment, Jarelito calls Virta's phone, which is with Joaquin, so he silences it. Joe sees the phone, thinking it's Joaquin's, takes it and writes his number on it, telling him to report immediately if he notices anything. After a while, Jarelito and his men arrive at Joaquin's house claiming to be police officers wanting to search the house. Joaquin agrees to avoid raising suspicion. Joe calls Jarelito informing him that the drug dealer's vault was robbed, but Jarelito says he's busy and will call back later. Meanwhile, Joaquin sends a message from Virta's phone to Joe asking him to come quickly. Jarelito asks Joaquin if anyone is with him, and Joaquin says only a tenant who rented the room has left. But suddenly, Betty appears from the room, proving he lied. Jarelito pulls out his gun, attaches a silencer, and orders Joaquin to take him to Virta. When he sees her sedated, he commands his men to beat Joaquin. At this moment, Joe calls using Virta's phone to ask Joaquin to open the door for him. Jarelito opens the door and wonders why Joe is using Virta's phone. He becomes suspicious of Joe, grabs him, and asks him where he got Virta's number from. Joe replies that Joaquin was the one who sent him the message from Virta's phone during the house search. Here, Jarelito realizes that Joaquin is very smart, so he threatens to kill Joaquin and demands that he explain the entire situation to him. But suddenly, Joaquin starts begging Zorto to save him and keeps pressuring him to honor their agreement. Meanwhile, Jarelito begins to suspect everything that's happening and confronts Zorto, accusing him of conspiring with Joaquin to rob the bank and split the money. Joaquin also reveals that Zorto had been secretly visiting Virta and drugging her. Zorto denies everything and claims he doesn't even know Joaquin, but Joaquin proves him wrong by exposing intimate details of their robbery plan. When he mentions the watch Zorto left behind at Joaquin's house the last time he was there, everyone becomes convinced that Joaquin is telling the truth. At that moment, Zorto realizes he's been trapped. He pulls out his gun, shoots Pedro dead, and immediately Jarlito retaliates by killing Zorto. At this moment, Berta wakes up, grabs Zorto's gun, and kills Jarlito. After that, Joe manages to free himself from the restraints, and Joaquin threatens to kill him. But Joe remains extremely calm and convinces them that he's the only one capable of hiding the bodies and covering up the crime. In return, he demands half the money Joaquin stole from the bank, telling him, "This is better for you than destroying your entire life." But Joaquin shows Joe the videos of him with Calito, so Joe falls silent for a moment, eats the dog biscuit laced with poison, and then tells Joaquin he's changed his mind. He'll take all the money, or else Berta and her daughter will die. Joaquin agrees, gives him the money, and lets him leave. On the road, the poison starts taking effect in Joe's body and he loses focus. He crashes hard, so hard that the bodies fly out of his car's trunk. He barely manages to escape before the car explodes. But the poison finishes its job, and Joe dies instantly. A few days later, we see Joaquin selling the house, taking Berta, Betty, and Casimiro to start a new life somewhere else. And with that, the movie ends. Don't forget to tell us your thoughts on the movie. If you liked it, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily movie summaries. Bye.